Welcome to Gillette Stadium. I'm Michael Arguwell. This is my third time coming out here. So I guess this is the third time you're trying to get punched in the face in Boston. Let's go see what we can do. What would you have to say about Tom Brady? His house is up for sale, his contract's void. Think he's going to play for another team?
I sure hope not.
Sounds to me like he's going to be at Miami Dolphins.
Sounds like some speculation bull to me, to be quite frank. What do you think about that? I don't think it's real, do you?
I mean,
Happy Jamaican New Year, oh yeah.
The Patriot way is trusting anything that Bill Belichick does. It doesn't come down to anything else. Bill we trust. Tom Brady and Bill, it's an absolute match made in heaven. There's nothing like it. No one's ever seen anything like it. 6 Super Bowls, you out of your fucking mind? Come on.
Really having one of the worst times ever. It's raining, my turtleneck's all wet. Somehow my arms are wet. I've been wearing this jacket all day, and no one wants to talk.
Tom Brady's the best ever. Is this the last time you'll see Tom Brady play? Is he playing next season? Is he coming back next year?
Do your job!
Yeah. We're going for shelter.
It won't be long till happiness steps up to me.
All right, well, this has been possibly the single worst experience of my life. The commuter rail got delayed by an hour. It's raining. Yeah.
Get it! Let's get this money! Go Pats! Pop the stands in the Union!
The Patriots. It's raining. They told us we can't film on the property. I really didn't think there was anything that could make me hate the Patriots worse. Let's get out of here.
Welcome to the Box Score. We've got a lot to get to today with our Sports Court Championship and an exclusive 2-part interview with Barstool personality Frank the Tank Fleming. But first things first, let's address the state of America's punching bag, the Dallas Cowboys. Going into the season, everyone and their mother viewed the Cowboys as one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Every major network had analysts talking about the NFC Championship and a possible Super Bowl appearance for this team. And you might say, well, yeah, that's every year. But is it unrealistic to still call them one of the most talented rosters in the entire league? They boast a defense with stars like DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, and Byron Jones. Not even a mention an offense that has Dak Prescott under center, Ezekiel Elliott handling the rock, and Amari Cooper making John Gruden look like a fool. To be fair, Khalil Mack is also doing the same thing. And hey, listen, nobody loves John Gruden more than me. You don't say things like this and not immediately capture my heart.
God damn it! Hey, Nate! You gotta hurry up, man. It takes forever. Start the motion, get it going. We're running out of time. My life is running out of lifespan. So casual, like a house mouse.
Not entirely sure how casual a house mouse really is, but I'm not going to question the man's metaphors. I will question him trading away 2 young all-pro talents, though. Again, not what I want to do, but how's Cleveland Farrell working out? Anyway, back to the Cowboys. The talent is undeniable, but the coaching staff has always held back what could be a special unit in Dallas. For the past 9 seasons, that coaching staff has been led by no one other than Jason Garrett. And Jerry Jones seems to have had enough with waiting around for success.
But in this business, you've got to come in first. You've got to come in first. And so fundamentally, you've asked for something that's a very narrow window to begin with. I want Jason to get it done.
Reports out of Dallas have claimed that Jones has set the bar at winning a Super Bowl this season for Garrett to keep his job. It's the first time in Garrett's tenure where Jones has publicly stated his displeasure with the coaching staff, and while that might indicate a disconnect within the organization, his frustration is without a doubt for good reason. The amount of games the Cowboys have not just lost this season, but over the course of the last 9 seasons due to Garrett's lack of game management skills is numerous. Every Cowboys fan remembers when he iced his own kicker in Arizona before attempting a game-tying field goal, or killing 30 seconds off the clock down by 2 in Baltimore to set up a 50-plus yard field goal attempt for Dan Bailey, which he missed, or his unwillingness to take risks and play it safe, ultimately creating a distrust within an offense that is already set back by horrendous play calling. Look, I understand that blaming the head coach is the easiest and possibly the laziest thing to do in sports, but there has been one constant for the past 9 disappointing seasons in Dallas, and that's Jason Garrett. This was a team in the 90s that was once like Britney Spears, looking good, winning hardware, and having a bright future. Since that time, though, they've also aged like Britney Spears, falling out of relevance and shaving their heads. Okay, maybe that's just Britney. But still, this is America's team, the eye candy of the NFL that holds more primetime games than any other organization. Yet, when the lights have gotten brightest, the Cowboys have crumbled. Just this year, the team is 6-1 against teams over 500. But when it's time to prove their worth against teams over 500, they have an 0-5 record. And before you even think about saying it, it's laughable to call Dak Prescott the problem with the Cowboys. Yeah, he's had a tough game or two, but if Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson weren't superhuman, he'd be in the MVP conversation with those two with his league-leading passing yards, 23 passing touchdowns, and third-best QBR at 74.7. It's not Dak. He's not like the $32 million man in Philly struggling to hit checkdowns to his running backs. So, thanks to Jerry Jones, the pressure is now on in Dallas. And with a Week 16 matchup in Philadelphia against the 5-7 Eagles, the playoffs are certainly not out of reach for this Cowboys team. But the time is now if Jason Garrett wants to save his job. You know what they say, pressure makes diamonds. Pressure can also burst pipes. The next 4 weeks will hold the answer for Dallas and Jason Garrett. In the meantime, let's move on. We got the opportunity to sit down with Barstool personality and Super Mets fan Frank the Tank Fleming. His legendary NJ Transit rant, passionate commitment to the Mets, and Sports Encyclopedia website are all things that have pushed Frank to the forefront of viral videos on social media and his status within Barstool. We got a chance to ask him about all of that and more. Here's part 1 of our interview. All right, so we're about to head into Frank the Tank's home. We'll see how this goes, see if he's ready for us.
All right. Hey, how's it going?
Frank Fleming, also known as the Tank, is no ordinary sports media figure. The same could be said about the courthouse clerk and diehard Mets fans' rise to fame.
Tragic is the absolute worst. I'm not going to get to my game now because they are incompetent.
To this day, Frank does not mince his words about the New Jersey transportation system.
And then also you'll see like 3 of them come together. Dun, 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 convoy, we got a great big convoy. And a half hour later, the 2 buses come together. The 2 buses is like the one that's one's early and the other one's late. Behind the buses, and you get caught behind the buses. They never pulled at a curb. No, it's just like.
He's standing right here. Have you ever booed A-Rod before? I'm just curious.
I always booed A-Rod.
From NBC News to the Fox Sports MLB pregame show, Frank took off. He touched on what that experience and emergence into the spotlight was like.
That was crazy. I know they actually took me to the studio in Secaucus for that, and it was a satellite interview. I met A-Rod on the since then. I've talked to Kevin Burkhardt a few times since then.
Speaking of A-Rod, Frank has some pretty strong opinions towards the MLB's treatment of players from the steroid era on the Hall of Fame ballot.
I mean, they got to stop the steroid bullshit. There's probably, I know there's someone that's used steroids in the Hall of Fame now. I know there is. Jeff Bagwell is a Hall of Famer. And if he didn't do steroids, then I'll eat my hat.
How exactly did you get involved with Barstool Sports, with Dave Portnoy?
They saw my rant and they wanted me to be like one of their associates. Just I was on the radio show. They said, okay, you can start writing for us, and then I started writing for them. And now I do different things here and there, hot dog reviews.
Frank also appeared on Barstool Sports' Big Brain to try and garner some help for his website, the Sports Encyclopedia. As for his expectations and where he's at now,
I didn't know what to expect, actually. At least $100,000 to make
You need $100,000?
At least.
Is that a wild guess, Frank?
Just a wild guess. I've hired a company to help me finish it, and they keep telling me that they're working on it, and hopefully soon it will be done.
Frank has become among the most passionate and outlandish personalities in the sports media industry. And with his knack for yelling and ripping up shirts in frustration, it led me to ask, why the Mets?
When you first really start to seriously get into sports is when you're 9, 10 years old. And at that time, the Mets were winning 90 games a year. And then just the last 30 years has been just disappointment after disappointment after disappointment.
Thought he would have an issue with new manager Carlos Beltran being implicated in the Astros cheating scandal? Think again.
Stealing signs is as old as the game itself. It's old. Baseball is stealing signs. I have no problem whatsoever. If you're not trying to steal signs, you're not trying to play baseball.
As for who he blames for his Mets' frustration and heartbreak, Frank delivers that message the only way he knows how.
Wilpons, blame the Wilpons. They're the cheapest owner in baseball. When you're watching the baseball, the Wilpons, you're gonna have a frustrating time. You're gonna be frustrated. This is Tank's vlog, September 4th, 2019, wrapping up the day in sports.
That ripped shirt is from the Mets' 6-run 9th-inning meltdown in September against the Nationals. Why does he still have it, you ask?
I just kept this one because somehow someone might ask for it one day.
Frank recently went into the Barstool office to play some Madden for Barstool Game Time. With that not going as planned, he hits on what went wrong and what he's used to playing.
I can see myself playing Madden again, but I need to know how to do these controllers, and nobody told me what to do with the controllers. I mean, there's 2 joysticks. Which one controls running? I don't know. There was one when I last used it. I mean, when I was playing video games, I was playing Burger Time. Right. You have to make a hamburger, and you're being chased by hot dogs, eggs, pickles. This is my speed.
That's all for now. Stay tuned for part 2 of my interview with Frank Fleming later on in the show. All right, we're back here at the Box Scores. I'm now joined by Hannah Brewitt and Avi Karkloff to talk some basketball. Guys, we're about quarter of the way through the NBA season so far. East and West, kind of interesting. Bucks, Giannis and the Bucks doing Giannis and the Bucks things. The Celtics got off to a red hot start, kind of cooled off since then. Raptors have been playing well. Over in the West, nobody's beaten the Lakers so far. Clippers are starting to put it together. And the Nuggets, like you said just a few weeks ago, they're for real. So if you guys had to address the current situation right now in the East and West, what would you say?
Again, you mentioned a lot of those things, so I'll just break it down real quick.
Yeah.
Milwaukee is doing exactly what they should be doing, continuing basically what happened last season. They're great. You got 4 teams in the East that are undefeated at home, 2 of those being Toronto and Miami. Miami has surprised me. I didn't think they'd be as good as they have been at this point in the season. Jimmy Butler has been an excellent fit to their culture. And without Kawhi Leonard and without Kyle Lowry right now, Toronto is killing it. I would not want to go to Toronto for a playoff series. I don't think anyone wants to at this point. So you got that going for you. Pascal Siakam has basically been the second best player in the conference to this point. In the West, both LA teams have been good. The Clippers need to get a little bit healthy. The Nuggets, like I said, they are really, really good. They have a home game tonight against the Lakers. That's really going to prove it. Other teams like Houston, they're sticking around. Both conferences, they got depth for the first time in a while.
Yeah, and I mean, going off of that, it's the first year in a while that the Warriors aren't the team in the NBA, and it's been really just fun to watch, to see that the talent is pretty evenly distributed, not just across the West, but in the East and the West. You mentioned the Lakers with LeBron and Anthony Davis. There's no stopping those guys. I mean, I think if anyone in the West is going to, it's going to be the Clippers, who are starting to put the pieces together, as you mentioned. But without the Warriors at the forefront, it really is a lot more even competition, and we have in the East, Giannis has been just outstanding. I mean, they don't call him the freak for nothing. He's just been very, very good.
You guys mentioned the Warriors. Can you see, if and when Steph Curry comes back, them kind of pushing themselves back into the playoff picture?
I mean, I would never count them out. I mean, they do have a lot of talent. However, they have not been playing basketball that translates to be a playoff team, let alone a championship team. So I would not put them in that picture.
I'll count them out. They have the worst record in the league. I don't care who you are. I don't think, especially in the Western Conference, you recover from that at this point in the season. I don't think they make it.
And we mentioned the Bucks real quick. Do you think that, are you surprised, I guess, that the loss of Malcolm Brogdon hasn't had as much of an effect as maybe people thought?
No. I expected Brook Lopez to leave, and that was supposed to really hurt them, but they brought him back, and they brought Bledsoe back. As long as Giannis is there, as long as Budenholzer's there, they have the recipes for
Yeah,
success.
I mean, Giannis has the keys. It doesn't matter who else is in the car as far as I'm concerned.
Right. All right, so we mentioned both the Celtics and Lakers, too. This is the first time in a while where both teams are kind of good. And don't get me wrong, I personally believe this to be the best rivalry in all of sports. So do you guys think this rivalry steps back onto center stage this season or anytime soon?
I mean, if there's any year to do it, it's right now. The Lakers have been kind of on the back burner for a while. The Celtics, the past few years, we've seen glimpses of real greatness. I mean, nothing's like 2008 when both teams were great. But I think
or 2010.
2010, yeah, that too. But, 2008 was
Right.
was a good one for me. But anyway, so I mean, with Kemba Walker replacing Kyrie was a real cancer to the culture of the team. And I think with a coach like Brad Stevens, who is an excellent coach, I think that Kyrie on the roster, he kind of negated some of Brad Stevens' contributions to the team. He kind of had to take a back seat. And now that there's better chemistry, Brad Stevens is able to coach better, and they've really just been gelling as a team and have been getting in that winning mindset. And they look really good. And then, of course, you have LeBron. LeBron does what LeBron does, and he wins basketball games. So I think that it's a great push and pull between the two teams.
I think in terms of the rivalry, the only real rivalry moment that we had really between these two organizations was at that one point in time where Anthony Davis was considering potentially whether he wanted to come to Boston or not. Basically the arms race to get Anthony Davis and everything that got sucked into that. That was really the last time we saw a rivalry. The Celtics and Lakers haven't been good at the same time for a long time now. I don't really see the rivalry's been pretty dormant for the last decade or almost decade. I wouldn't call it the most fierce rivalry in sports, not by a long shot. You just saw Ohio State, Michigan this past weekend. Let me tell you that.
When was the last time Michigan won one of those games?
But at least they play every year. My point is they've been great, but they've been great separately, and I don't see unless they go to the finals. I still don't see it as a renewal of that rivalry.
All right. Well, thanks for sitting down, chatting with me, guys. We'll see how things turn out this season. When we come back, though, we'll have a top 5 on college football's Heisman candidates and a sports court championship matchup between Michael Lagerwell and Jacqueline Galvin on who should be the NFL's MVP. Don't rearrange your furniture, mow your lawn, or get your car's oil changed. We'll be back in 90 seconds.
All right, come back in 10 seconds. Ready, camera 1. Camera 1, get a wide shot of the entire thing, and in 3, 2, 1, take. Talent cue.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson
Camera
trails
4, get a shot of the players coming across the court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As
Camera 2, close upon the person shooting.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this big one.
Camera 1, get close to follow them over.
Emerson trails WPI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1, close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away.
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
Hey, we're your roomies, your homies, your new living best.
We live here too.
Thanks.
Liz! Do you have any idea what time it is?
It's time.
7. Oh, 7? It would mean a lot to me if you guys watch.
Welcome back to the box score. This college football season has been anything but predictable. Alabama is toast, Utah might have a shot at the college football playoff, and Joe Burrow has cemented round 1 status with his stellar play. Speaking of Burrow, we have Brenda Shelton and Oliver Chamberlain here to give you their top 5 Heisman candidates with the ceremony in New York not far away. Guys, take it away.
Thanks, Ryan. So for my number 5, I have Jonathan Taylor. This is a guy that's really been a great running back for Wisconsin. He's really given them an opportunity, putting them into the Big Ten playoffs, their championship game. He's had 20 touchdowns this season, and I think he's been a great candidate. He really has to have a great show, though, when he goes to perform in the championship game, if he has a chance of winning the Heisman Trophy.
Right, so coming in at my number 5, I have the junior out of Ohio State, Chase Young. This year, the 6'5", 265-pound beast has been an absolute menace for offensive lines across the country. This year, in just 9 games, he's notched 38 tackles, 16 sacks, and 6 forced fumbles. Stats impressive enough to grant him a few votes. However, he is a defensive end, and his 2-game suspension will eliminate from a few of the more perfectionist voters.
So for my number 4, I have Jalen Hurts, and this is a guy during rivalry week. We saw him run a touchdown, catch a touchdown, and throw a touchdown. He's a multifaceted player. We've seen that his ability is through the roof. He has lots of options to do kind of anything, and I think he has a really big chance of winning this Heisman Award.
So in at my number 4, I've got last year's runner-up Tua Tagovailoa. With 2,840 yards, 33 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions, Tua has made quite the case for himself in this year's voting. However, in my opinion, the loss to LSU dropped his chances of winning the trophy substantially, and that was even before the season-ending hip injury. I can't see it happening for him this year, but perhaps he'll take it next year if he does not declare for the NFL draft.
So for my number 3, I have Chase Young, and as Oliver said, for his number 5, it's not often that you see a defensive player in the running for the Heisman Award. However, I think that he has what it takes. He leads the NCAA into sacks this year, and I think it's time for the 22-year streak of offensive players winning to come to an end.
And at my number 3, I've got Justin Fields. This year, Fields has really shown himself to be what he was expected to be, and it's turned out to be more than good enough for the Heisman consideration. With an impressive 68.2% completion percentage and 2,654 yards and 33 touchdowns, the kid has shown himself to be a good passing quarterback. However, Fields has also put up impressive rushing stats with 10 touchdowns and 445 yards. However, he has had a few moments which didn't necessarily scream Heisman winner, think Penn State, and so I've got him just at number 3.
So for my number 2, I know it's going to come as a shock, but I just had to throw Trevor Lawrence in there. He has the golden arm. He's been absolutely amazing this year for Clemson, leading them to an undefeated season. I think it would be downright unfair to not include him in the conversation, even though he withdrew from the Heisman. I thought he has had a great season thus far, and if he didn't withdraw, he would be my number 1.
In at my number 2 spot, I have none other than Jalen Hurts. Since 2015, only 4 players have been able to clinch over 3,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards in a single season. And Jalen Hurts is the latest to join that elite group with 3,347 passing yards and 1,217 rushing yards. He also had a very impressive 71.9% completion rate with only 6 interceptions, putting him closest to the Heisman Trophy behind only my number 1 candidate.
So my number 1 is Joe Burrow, who has been the front runner for this Heisman Award this year. He's had an absolutely incredible season with LSU, putting them in these winning positions to win games and score points. LSU has a record-breaking season with passing yards and touchdowns, and I think it just would be anyone other than him, it would shock me.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Could this year's Heisman race really be considered a race? Not really. In at my number 1 is also Joe Burrow. He's been breaking program and SEC records left and right while LSU cruises to a hearty 12-0 record. It's not surprising either, as Burrow currently has a total of 4,366 passing yards and a blistering 78.3% completion rate, as well as 44 touchdowns and just 6 interceptions. With statistics like those, I absolutely cannot fathom anyone else taking the Heisman home this year, so congrats, Joe.
Back to you, Ryan.
Welcome to Sports Court. The championship is upon us. We have a heavyweight matchup between Jacqueline Galvin and the only man I know that owns a turtleneck in Michael Lagerwell. Today, the case being presented is that for the NFL MVP. Should it be second-year phenom Lamar Jackson or the Seattle Seahawks' Russell Wilson? Here in defense of Lamar Jackson is Jacqueline Galvin, while Michael Lagerwell will be representing Russell Wilson. Before I open the floor for debate, we'll begin with opening statements. We'll start with the odds-on favorite for the award at the current moment. So, Jacqueline, the floor is yours.
What happens when a team has an elite quarterback and running back rolled into one? That question can only be answered in one city, Baltimore, Maryland. Lamar Jackson is the single reason why the Ravens should be the favorite to represent the AFC in Super Bowl 54. Jackson is not only a great passer, proving this to everyone with his 5 touchdown passes against the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football, but an elite runner. Jackson's ability to extend plays is currently unmatched in the league, and he is undoubtedly the most dangerous offensive player in the NFL. He only has 1 fumble when he is running and 5 interceptions when he is passing, and he also holds the most passing touchdowns in the league currently with 25. He is a menace within the option, and he rarely, if ever, takes big hits because of his ability to escape them. He made the top-rated New England Patriots defense look silly. He annihilated the Houston Texans in a game that was slated to be one of the best of the year. And he made the aforementioned Rams look absolutely ridiculous on Monday Night Football. Lamar Jackson is only comparable to greats like Michael Vick, and no one in this league compares to the amount of impact that Lamar Jackson has on the Baltimore Ravens. For this reason, he is the most valuable player in the NFL today.
Through Week 13, the Seattle Seahawks are 10-2. This is 2 years after their supposed rebuild. It was the end of the Legion of Boom. Common sense dictates that the Seahawks should still be rebuilding this year. However, they're obviously not. And this is due to one man, Russell Wilson. And after leading the Seahawks to 8 consecutive winning seasons, it is about time he earns some accolades. I would argue it should be the MVP. In my argument, however, I will not be disparaging Lamar Jackson. What Lamar Jackson has done is amazing, but he is simply the flavor of the month. Russell Wilson is more deserving of the MVP.
Flavor of the month. Interesting. I'll now open the floor up for debate.
Russell Wilson is top 10 in the NFL in multiple passing categories. He is the 3rd highest passer rating. He has the 7th most yards, and he's leading the league in touchdowns.
No,
Leading the league in touchdowns, 26th, leading the league. He is unmatched.
Jackson is 32 rushing and passing.
I never said rushing and passing. I just said passing. Not only that, in the clutch, Lamar Jackson can't play in the clutch. Russell Wilson has 4 fourth-quarter comebacks and 5 game-winning drives. Lamar Jackson
doesn't need to play in the clutch
because he doesn't need to play in the clutch.
He extends the lead so that his team doesn't have to play in the clutch. Does Russell Wilson do that? No.
No, actually, I would argue that Lamar Jackson doesn't need to play in the clutch because the rest of his team is so good. Russell Wilson needs to play in the clutch because he is carrying the Seahawks. The Ravens would be just as good with a quarterback not named Lamar Jackson.
No, they wouldn't.
Yes,
they
would.
Are you kidding me? Okay, why?
They'd even be better. If the Ravens had
They'd be better without Lamar Jackson. Michael, are you on something? That is absolutely ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous to say that they would be better without Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the league today. He currently
He's the best quarterback in the league.
He has 977 rushing yards, about to pass
on 140 attempts. That's a lot of attempts. Russell Wilson.
Still 977 rushing yards. He's about to pass Michael Vick, arguably the best rushing quarterback of all time. He's about to pass Michael Vick.
Can we please take a second to calm down? I'm trying to have a discussion and you're just yelling in my ear. But anyway, you mean the same Michael Vick who never even came close to winning an MVP, who never even led his team past anywhere? But what? He's the person you're comparing Lamar Jackson to. He's the reason why he's the reason why everyone has him in the MVP race because he's the next Michael Vick. No, well, being the next Michael Vick didn't win Michael Vick shit.
Can we say this on the box score? I don't know if we can. I think that should be a penalty, deduct points from that. So we're just going to go back to my argument here. So he has played some of the best defenses.
He's also played some of the worst. Played the Miami Dolphins.
Okay. Yeah, but so do the Patriots, and everyone still says that the
I'm
Patriots
just saying,
are great.
Russell Wilson has not played the Miami Dolphins, and that is a fact.
That is a fact. So he has played Seattle, he has played the Rams, he has played San Francisco, he has played Houston, and he has played New England. And he played New England when they were ranked the #1 defense in the entire league.
They ranked the #1 defense off playing terrible teams. That's really impressive.
They were still ranked the #1 defense, Michael. It doesn't change that fact.
He
had 1 rushing touchdown and 2 passing touchdowns against the Patriots. Against Seattle, he had 116 plus a rushing touchdown. Against the Rams, 95 yards. Against San Francisco, 101 yards. And against Houston, 79 yards rushing.
Yet, when you look at their stats, they're very similar. So this argument is not going to be dictated with, Lamar Jackson has had really good games, because Russell Wilson has too. They're essentially the same statistical player, and I'm saying the only reason why people have Lamar Jackson ahead of Russell Wilson is because of the story of, all these NFL GMs said he should play wide receiver, and now he's actually really good at quarterback, which he has always been, and everyone's like, wow, I'm so shocked, let's give him the MVP. He doesn't deserve it any more than Russell Wilson does.
Okay, but let's just take a look. Let's single out a game here. Let's single out a game.
Single out a game in an entire 16-game season?
Let's single out a game where he faced Wade Phillips, as a defensive coordinator for the Rams. He faced Aaron Donald, Clay Matthews, Jalen Ramsey, to name a few of that so-called incredible defense that Wade Phillips put together. He had 6 consecutive possessions with 6 touchdowns. Are you telling me that that's not MVP worthy, MVP caliber on Monday Night Football, to say the least? That is the highest stakes. That's not a playoff game or the Super Bowl. Monday Night Football, all eyes are on you. You're the only football that day.
I understand
and he
what
made
Monday
the
Night
Rams
Football is.
look silly. He made the Rams look silly.
Citing box scores from one game are
Well,
not going to impress me, because anyone can have a great game.
Well, I don't need to impress you. I
There
need
are
to impress the
people
jury.
there are running backs who have had over almost 300 yards rushing in a game, and they're not even in the league. In fact, they weren't even on teams in like one of the next following seasons. Anyone can do anything in one game. Jared Goff's looked like an MVP in one game, and we all know Jared Goff certainly is not a quality quarterback.
Okay.
So citing one game stats is not going to win you this argument.
I'm just singling out a specific game that showcases his MVP talent.
Do we
and
want to talk
ability.
about the game that happened just Monday night against the Seahawks against the Vikings, where Russell Wilson struggled in the first half and came back and beat one of the best teams in the NFC? The Vikings are a great team, and Russell Wilson led that team from behind. Because Kirk Cousins isn't playing great, Dalvin Cook was a fringe MVP candidate at the beginning of the year, and he led them back against that team on Monday Night Football, the only game playing. That's amazing. I bet they really feel the pressure from all the extra viewers.
Okay, so Lamar Jackson isn't just great because he is a rushing quarterback. He is absolutely elusive. He can
he's great because he's a really good running quarterback. Is that what you're saying? Just clarifying.
He can extend plays that other quarterbacks absolutely could not extend. And he doesn't always. Let me finish.
Speaking of extending plays, can we run the clip where I have Russell Wilson extending the play and leading a receiver upfield? I thought that was pretty extensive. Continue.
Okay, so he extends plays and he makes these sidearm passes.
Oh, like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, who won the NFL MVP last year. So thank you for helping my argument.
Welcome.
So
Anything
he
to
makes
help a
these.
friend.
Oh my gosh, he makes these incredible sidearm passes to receivers who aren't even completely wide open. So thank you for helping my argument.
Everyone knows that.
All right. I think for the first time in sports court history, I'm speechless. Let's just go to the closing statements. This time we're going to start with Michael.
Lamar Jackson is a phenom. There's no denying that. What he has been doing has not been done since pre-conviction Michael Vick. But that should not guarantee Lamar the MVP. In fact, that didn't even guarantee Michael Vick an MVP, as I earlier mentioned. Why should Lamar Jackson win an MVP for being the closest thing to Michael Vick when he never came close to an MVP? I asked the jury to take off their rose-colored glasses and see how Russell Wilson has carried the Seattle Seahawks team with his arm and his legs, and how that should win him the MVP.
Although Russell Wilson has had one of the best years of his career, his impact on the Seahawks is not comparable to the impact of Lamar Jackson on the Ravens. Jackson's style of play has completely changed the way that defenses approach the Ravens when they play them. Jackson took Wilson's style of play and literally ran with it to create an even more effective way to move the ball down the field. Jackson's ability to scramble and his improved passing, coupled with his innate ability to run the ball, makes him a weapon that hasn't been seen by defenses in decades. He can seemingly throw the ball at any angle now, making sidearm throws that MVP Patrick Mahomes made last year. The only way to beat the Ravens is to control Lamar Jackson, and teams haven't figured out how exactly to do that yet. And the only team that came close was the San Francisco 49ers this past weekend. There is no reason for Jackson not to win this award, as he improved miles from last season, and his team is marching towards a Super Bowl berth with him at the helm.
All right, when we return, we'll have our jury's decision as well as part 2 of our interview with Frank Fleming and a hot take factory on the European Championship from our very own Oliver Chamberlain. We'll be right back with this explosive sports court. We're back here at the box score and ready to declare a champion. Juror number 1, big decision. How do you find?
Well, after discussing with the other members of the jury, it is my pleasure to announce this season's winner and champion of the sports court, Michael Lagerwell.
All right, we'll give 30 seconds to Michael to give his acceptance speech. Go for it.
I would like to thank all the jurors that came out today to help create this amazing decision. I mean, what can I say? I know Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback, but so is Russell Wilson. And ultimately, Russell Wilson is the better quarterback this year. That's all I'd like to say.
All right,
This is my acceptance speech. Your Honor,
I
I
guess
would like my own time to
You're
speak.
done. You're done.
Can I get the gavel?
Sure. You want the gavel?
Yeah.
You can pop over here. Take the gavel. There you go. Do you want to? You give a smile to the camera. We'll give a freeze frame. There you go. All right. Congrats, Michael. It's unfortunate. Do we have a prize? No. Deal with it. Regardless, we're now going to head to part 2 of our interview with Frank Fleming. Enjoy.
Remember how Frank is a Mets fan? Well, he's also a Dolphins fan, something he laments nearly to the same level.
They're stuck in NFL hell, and they're still stuck in NFL hell because they can't even tank right.
Speaking of regret, Frank, along with many other Dolphins fans, does not look back fondly at the trade that sent safety Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, it's not working out because that's the type of player you need to build around, and now you're not going to have that type of player because you're not going to get a good draft pick.
And let's just say he's as befuddled as the rest of the NFL world at the magic of the Patriots.
How the f*** do the Patriots, drafting 28th every year, continue to find good players, and the Dolphins get nothing?
As for ex-Dolphins coach Adam Gase, Frank's not a fan.
And I love Adam Gase. Adam Gase, the way he the Dolphins and every good player out of Miami that they wanted to leave, everyone left, alienating players. I'm Adam Gase. Zing, 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 zing. That's what he did to the Dolphins. That's why the Dolphins are in the position they are now. And I knew he was going to do that to the Jets. Jet fans enjoy him. He's going to ruin Sam Darnold. He's not the quarterback whisperer. He's the quarterback ruiner.
And even for a Dolphins fan, Frank has quite a bit to say about the Cleveland Browns and their quarterback.
They're the Cleveland Browniest team in the world. I mean, their logo should be Lucy pulling the football from Charlie Brown. They should slap that on the side of their helmet. Good God Almighty! Baker Mayfield! All talk. That's all Baker Mayfield is. He's all talk.
When asked about Mayfield, his sentiments don't change.
Because he's a big-mouthed. He's a piece of shit. All he does is talk. All he does is talk, but I watch him on the field and he sucks.
When transitioning to college football, Frank took some time to give us his best rendition of a Coach O impression.
We're gonna let it win the game now. I'm go out there. We're gonna go out in the bayou and we're gonna sit around. We're gonna celebrate. We're gonna watch the Saints. We're gonna go who that. Who that gonna beat them Saints? We're gonna go down to the Superdome. Maybe we could have a celebration and go down to Mardi Gras.
Asked about another SEC coach, Alabama's Nick Saban, Frank lets it be known he does not remember him fondly for his days in Miami.
Nick Saban, who said, Drew Brees, get out of here, you shrimp. I want the big guy. Dante Culpepper, come aboard. And then one season later, I don't like being here. And I'm Dolphins.
Frank is also a Devils fan, a team, believe it or not, he is not so thrilled with at the current moment, but provides them with a simple solution to turn their disappointing season around.
Stop blowing 3-goal leads in the third period. You know how you get the fans to stop booing? Shoot the puck on the power play. Pass. Putting at the net, the goalie. Why would we do that? No, we gotta pass it 900 times and wait for that perfect shot. No rebounds. No, we don't do rebounds. We just take one shot. That is why the Devils are losing, because they are so horribly coached.
At this point, you must be wondering, how does he do it? Is he happy?
Frustrated, aggravated. It's one of the reasons I'm 400 plus pounds. You should just like you want to chew on your frustration.
So you're also, though, a noted Game of Thrones fan. and there's a lot of controversy with the way that show ended. What did you think of the last season?
It was like after the White Walkers, they didn't know what to do, and it was like, it. Cup in the shot! Cup in the shot! Cup, man. It's not why I watch it. We got water bottle in the shot! And well, who cares?
And I made sure before I left not to miss out on an opportunity for a famous Frank food review in person.
I mean, it's a basic glazed donut. I mean, it's good. I mean, Krispy Kreme is good. I mean, of course, I actually like Dunkin' better, but I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a solid 8.1.
That's all from New Jersey. For the Box Score, this is Ryan Ribeiro.
There's no doubt Frank is one of the most entertaining characters in sports media right now. It was great sitting down with him and getting his insight. For future reference, if you talk to him, maybe don't bring up Adam Gase. But to close things out here on the Season 8 finale of the Box Score is Oliver Chamberlain to give us some insight on the 2020 European Championship, with the groups being announced just the other day. Oliver, it's all yours.
Thanks, Ryan. Yes, following the release of the 2020 Euro groups, I thought I'd enlighten you all on the teams to keep an eye on this summer. So first, let's talk about Belgium, currently sitting pretty in Group B, a group which I see them easily winning. Belgium, when you think about it, should really be a great team. They have all the vital qualities to call them great. They've got one of the world's greatest midfielders in Kevin De Bruyne, and a very strong attack in Eden Hazard, Romelu Lukaku, and Dries Mertens. In the past, however, their lack of depth has come back to haunt them, so it's hard for me to see them in the final. Also, I think the Netherlands is going to have a very exciting summer. This past season saw the rise of some great young talents like Frenkie de Jong, Matthias de Ligt, and Virgil van Dijk's solidification as the greatest center back in the world. They've got exciting young talent throughout the pitch, and I think many will be surprised to see the heights the Flying Dutchman will soar to this summer. Then we've got the Three Lions. Coming off a very exciting World Cup 2 years ago and some successful years following, they are a really hard teams to bet against. With the likes of Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane up front, and the likes of Jordan Henderson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and John Stones backing them up, they seem to be very solid all around. Perhaps football is coming home this summer. Then we've got to discuss the ridiculous Group E with the reigning champions Portugal in the same group as Germany and France. On paper, it looks like these three giants are going to be absolutely head-to-head throughout the whole group stage to get onto the final 16. But on the pitch, it's hard to see Germany touching Portugal and France. I mean, sure, Germany has some talent, but come on. France has Pogba, Mbappe, Kanté, Griezmann, Varane, and Hugo Lloris. And Portugal, well, they have Ronaldo, and that's about all that needs to be said about that. Let's be honest, Germany hasn't been great since it won the World Cup some 5 years ago. And for my prediction for winner, France. I mean, like I said before, Kanté, Griezmann, Mbappe, Varane, Pogba, Hugo Lloris, Lenglet, the Mendy brothers, they are absolutely stacked at every position from back to front. Also, they just won a World Cup, and that's really hard to argue with. So that's all from me. Back to you, Ren.
Good stuff, Oliver. I'm glad my request to present Portugal in a good light didn't go unnoticed. As we wrap things up here on the season finale of the Box Score, it's also the end of an era. Beginning next season, I'll be stepping down as host and giving the reins to Hannah Brewitt as the new host of Season 9. It has been an incredible 3 seasons here on the Box Score, but there are 2 people who deserve the most recognition for keeping the show afloat for the past year. First, huge thanks to our own version of Superman and one of the most talented people I've ever worked with, and our director, Joe DeVitti. He's been with us since day one, and at times has taken on way more than his title asks of him. Without Joe, the show would not be where it is right now, and no amount of thank yous could do that justice. And lastly, I need to thank the man who keeps the show running on a daily basis, executive producer Eric Morey. He might not be the face you see or the voice you hear, but he's the most important name in the credits without a doubt. When things have gotten stressful or gone awry, Eric was always there to take care of it. When things needed to get scheduled and logistics had to be figured out, Eric was on top of it. He's been by my side since day one and quickly established himself as the lifeblood of the Box Score. This show would not run without him. So it's the man who's carried everyone on his back behind the scenes. I say thank you. So for one last time, check out our Facebook and Instagram for all our new content and updates on the show. And for everyone here at the Box Score, I'm Ryan Ribeiro. It's been real.